Hi and welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 14 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular Handmade Wardrobe Challenge Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. When I receive some lovely feedback from a listener about an episode, it often falls into one of two camps. There's the feedback that's along the lines of, I learnt a lot from this episode. And there's the feedback that's more, I loved listening to this conversation. It felt like hanging out with sewing friends. With any luck, today's episode will be receiving some of the second kind of feedback. It's a fun conversation with my two closest in real life sewing buddies, friends of the podcast, Julia and Naomi. If you've been a listener for some time or have gone back through the catalogue, you'll have heard Julia and Naomi before. In this conversation, we respond to questions posed by some patrons of the podcast on the subject of sewing confessions. I wonder how you'd answer the same questions that we were asked. So, are you doing okay today? I hope so. It's the summer holidays here now, so time to work on the podcast is in short supply. Thankfully, I got ahead of myself with making episodes before the school broke up for the summer. That said, I have managed to create that downloadable resource that I promised. It's basically a written version of the recent Introduction to Garment Fabrics episode. A lot of research, writing and formatting went into creating it, and I am super happy with how it's turned out. It's a 13-page PDF that covers all the info that I packed into that episode, plus some more stuff. If you're fairly new to sewing or feel that there's some gaps in your fabric knowledge, then it is definitely for you. It should save you a heap of time researching various fabric terms yourself, plus it will potentially save you from making some costly mistakes on unsuitable fabric. You can find the resource in the shop tab of the Check Your Thread website, plus there's a link in the show notes. As with the Me Made May workbook that I created earlier this year, if you think that this resource would help you but you really can't afford the cost, email me and we'll work something out. So, have you been doing any sewing since the last episode? I have done virtually nothing since last week. My spare time in the evenings has been spent putting together the garment fabrics resource. However, I am slowly pushing forward my project that's using up all those viscose and tensile slippery fabric scraps. I've landed on the plan to make a pair of wide-legged culottes with an elasticated waist. Early signs are that they're going to look pretty bold, but hopefully cool, we'll see. Sustainability wins this week. It's a small one, but feels significant for me in terms of my food growing goals. I made a meal at the weekend that included 4 things I'd grown myself in my little garden. I made some sweet potato falafels with salad and kale crisps. Inside the falafels themselves was some garlic and fresh coriander, aka cilantro, that I've grown. Plus there were spring onions from the garden in the salad and I grew the kale. I'd kind of written my garden off a bit this year as a bit of a bust, but actually that meal was kind of proved me a bit wrong. So this week I'm saying a huge thanks to new patron Catherine for signing up to support the podcast via Patreon. I also get to say massive thanks to existing patron Jenny for choosing to up the amount of their support as well. Massive thanks to both of you. I know that it probably sounds like the amount of patrons of the podcast goes up week after week. However, we also lose some weeks. We've lost a few over the last week or so. I don't know whether that's because they're just not feeling the podcast so much these days or because money is tight. I have no idea, but I hope that they are still listeners and I want to thank them for the support that they were able to give. So this week is actually Check Your Thread's second birthday. We dropped the first ever episode on the 2nd of August 2021. If you fancy giving the podcast a birthday present, signing up to become a patron and supporting it with little monthly donations is the perfect gift. It is the most direct way to help keep Check Your Thread going. Please find the link in the show notes or on the website checkyourthread.com. So today's episode. As I say, this is a conversation between 3 sewing mates. It sounds quite different to most Check Your Thread conversations. It was all recorded on one track, so there's a fair bit of crosstalk, as there is in real conversations. Plus, there's some weird noise from time to time that I think was caused by my handheld recorder that I must apologise for. But it's a fun one. So big thanks to the patrons who sent in these questions many, many months ago. So please have a good week. Raise a glass or a mug to check your thread on the 2nd of August. Take care of yourself and enjoy. Hello, friends of the podcast, Naomi and Julia. How are you doing?
I'm really good.
Good.
Thank you. Really good.
Okay, right. Well, thank you everybody who submitted a question on the theme of sewing confessions. I'm very excited to get chit-chatting with you. Okay, right. Here we go. This is my question. My question. Do you feel like you have a healthy relationship with sewing, and have there ever been times when it's definitely been unhealthy? Do you think you have a healthy relationship with sewing?
I think I'm slightly obsessed with wanting to make all the things. Like all the things.
All of the things.
All of the things. Like at the moment, I'm like, I want to make this, I want to make this, I want to make this. And I've lined up loads of projects.
Yeah.
And I've tried to be organised, and I've put them all in little folders of like this pattern with this fabric, and now I've just got bags of projects, of multiple projects, and I just still keep going, I want to make something else. So yeah, I think it's out of control.
Is it the bit where like you enjoy the matching of pattern and fabric, or project and fabric?
I mean, I do enjoy that, where I think, I want to make that dress, or I want to make that jumpsuit, or I want to make that top, or like, that would be a really great idea. And then I don't actually have enough time to do all of these things.
Does that feel unhealthy?
I mean, I'm not sure. Is it unhealthy? I don't know. I do wonder if maybe I should devote some of my time in my life to other things.
Your husband.
He perhaps thinks I should devote some more time to him. But I do think, like, you go to work, come home from work, have my dinner, right, must sew stuff. And then...
Is that because you've been watching other people sew? I mean, when you've been teaching classes, you've been watching other people sew and you're like, I want a piece of that.
Exactly. Or I'm working with fabric all day.
I think that's a big problem.
And then I'm like, I want to buy that fabric, and I want to make that project, and I want to make this thing. So I think because, probably that. Like, I'm either working with people teaching them to sew, so I want to make all the things they're making, or I'm working with the fabric on the days that I'm in the warehouse, and then I want to buy all the fabric and make
the
things.
thoughts are like constantly, I could do, and I can add that, and I can do, I think, so it's not just the obsessive thinking about it and planning. My problem is I will say, I will go and sew for a few hours, but also then in the allotted time that I have today, do some other jobs, or work on the other thing, or do a blog on that, or whatever. And I get hyper-focused on the sewing. And I can't stop. I find it very hard to stop.
Really?
I'm just going to go upstairs and sew a seam. Yeah, right. I can't stop. I find it very hard to stop.
Really?
I become very hyper-focused on stuff. Yeah.
I have to have like a time that I cut off. So like 10 p.m. That's like my cut-off time.
I completely lose track of time. The only time I have track of time is when I have to pick my children up. And I have to, in which case it's like right to the fine, and usually there's a room left. The only thing I'll manage to do is plug the iron out and then run out the door with like one shoe on. But I find it very hard to stop, really hard. Yeah. So that's probably not healthy.
But do you think, I think it's good for like your mental health. I feel like for me, it's like I just, you just absorb yourself in what you're doing. So I think that's like a healthy thing. But I think there's probably other things that I should be doing with my time that I'm not.
I think it's healthy that sewing usually doesn't really involve a screen. So I think it's healthy in that way. I don't know. I've definitely had bouts of where I think it's, especially when the kids were tiny, and I was thinking about sewing like loads, because I feel it was like my thing. Yeah. But it got to a point where I think, like, I'm thinking about this too much.
Yeah, but did you have thoughts about sewing when people were telling you other stuff that was quite important? Because I have that.
Maybe. I wouldn't know. But I was thinking about
John, if you're listening to this, not when you're talking to me. But it is that thing where you're having a conversation with somebody going, but if I put the piping on it, it would look better.
I wake up, because I'm teaching people all the time, I wake up like in the morning thinking, I've got the solution for how I can solve like Jackie's dress fitting issues, or I know what I can do with like Alison's pattern. It just comes to me, and like that's my first thought in the day.
So fair,
is about sewing.
Interesting. That's interesting. So it's like maybe you've already got so many projects on the go, but in terms of like other people's projects,
I'm thinking about other people's projects and how I can solve their issues, and also my own projects. But yeah,
because is it the problem solving that you really love?
I do quite like that. Like I feel like I don't like to be defeated, so it's like I will find a solution to this. We will make this work. Like I've got a small amount of fabric, I will get that pattern cut out.
Yeah, I see that in you. You're very determined.
I can see that.
Solve problems.
Yeah,
fix
find
things.
the best way to do something. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So why can't you stop?
I don't know whether it's that thing of, I don't know, it's having it finished, isn't it? Feeling like you need to finish something, which probably isn't healthy because it stops being about the process.
Yeah, as soon as I finish something, I'm like, right, next. Like, literally the same evening, I'm like, well, that's great, that's out of the way. Yeah, what's my next
thing? And I think we've talked about this before, I used to have quite a small stash. And so my projects, because if I buy something, it's got straight into it, it's an idea. Very rarely is it not something in my head. And because of where I'm working, the ideas are coming faster. Yeah. And it's getting a little bit bigger, and that's
faster than you can sew.
So much, yeah. So I think that kind of sewing faster is to get through, which is not that's not healthy, I don't think.
Interesting.
It's not healthy. And
this is why I'm doing this last sew standing, because I was getting to the point where, I would buy a bunch of fabric and I would make some of it, and then I'd be moving on to the next idea, and
or I guess the end of a season, and all right, I'll leave that to next year, and then I've got this fabric the next year that I think,
and then it feels like a weight. So I just needed to put all that on pause. Even when I was like, right, well, I'm only going to buy, at the beginning year, I was only going to buy, I can't remember, it was like 8 pieces of fabric this year, no more than that. But I'm still thinking about it all the time because I had that allotted allowance. So I was like, this has got to stop. So then when I was talking to Shams about the last sew standing, and it just so happened completely coincidentally that when I was editing it to release it, I was just, I'll find the links, to add to the show notes. It was, the new one was just about to start. And I was like, before I knew it, I'd signed up because it felt like, oh yeah, this feels like the right thing to do, just to put the buying bit on pause.
But also what it does, I think what I've seen it do for you is it pushes your creativity. So I think sometimes when I'm making things, I get caught up in the prettiness of a fabric, and I'm not always finding ways to push my skills.
Right.
So I think then the unhealthy bit is I'm beating myself up, like I've made another thing that was quite similar to another thing,
right,
and hasn't pushed me and hasn't developed my skills or what I want to do or any of those things. It's just created another. So yeah, there is that part is unhealthy, the kind of afterwards of like, did I need to make that?
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
But do you like then wear the thing, or do you feel like, I made that and I don't like it and it was just a waste of time?
Less. But then they'll just have, there's only so many things you can wear, which is the guilt then of making these. I have to say, the Me Made Made pledge of, finding things you don't wear and finding homes for them has really helped. And I was really nervous about it because I didn't want to, sell someone something that I knew that little bit of the hem, or, they're going to judge me. But I just sold them. I thought, you know what? I'm selling them.
They're not worried about that in Primark, are they?
No, exactly. And this is it. And so just rehoming things and people going, oh, I really like it. And then the messaging, I really like that. That's great. You're like, oh, great. Somebody's going to wear that now because they've chosen it. I realised one of my dresses somebody bought in Lithuania because it didn't write for ages.
Oh, wow.
But it feels like, somebody else is wearing those now. It's not like, right now I can fill up my wardrobe with more stuff. But I feel like, okay, if I'm not wearing it enough, sell it to somebody or give it to somebody who's going to wear it, and be okay with that. Even
did you sell that one with the ice lollies on?
I did. That went to Lithuania.
Is that the one I went to? I love that one.
But
should have got in there sooner.
But we talked about making it would have been too big for you, and it would have been too short. Well, it was quite long. Putting it into a shirt, but I thought, if I do that, am I going to wear it every 2 weeks? Like, to me, a shirt has to be something I put on for work once a week or every 2 weeks. Or maximum every 3 weeks. Would I? No. let someone else have it. And that's the kind of attitude I had about it. And there's quite a few more things in my wardrobe I need to go, right, if I'm not wearing it enough, is it wasteful having it in my wardrobe sitting there? Or would someone else love it?
Yeah.
Especially somebody who can't sew something to that level, let them wear it. And I'm feeling quite at peace with that, and it's actually a good feeling.
That's brilliant.
But not filling up massive stuff to kind of...
Yeah. So Julia, when you have stuff that you've made and it's not worked out quite how you wanted it, or it turns out you're not wearing it, does that feel like a weight? Are you annoyed in the same way?
Sometimes I am annoyed. Sometimes I think, why have I wasted my time like making that thing that isn't right? And then like I'm getting, the more you make, I think you get better at sort of picking the right fabric, picking the right pattern, making things that you are going to wear. But then, I've had fabric where I think, right, I bought that for a reason, I made it up into something, and then I've tried it and I just feel a bit like, just annoyed that I didn't spend a bit longer, maybe, kind of considering what that could have been.
Yeah.
But I think like you said, the me made May things made me think, right, okay, these are the things like I've really enjoyed wearing. These are the type of garments I like to wear. This is the kind of colours I want to wear. I want more of that in my wardrobe. So I'm not just picking out things that I think a bit more too.
So I dress very much. I use colour for my mood, to lift my mood. So where people will kind of go, oh, I need another pair of trousers, and yes, I don't really have enough pairs of trousers that I've made, and I need to do that. But I also will very much go, I need to wear pink and red today because I feel quite low, and that helps lift me. And I fill gaps in my wardrobe with colour. Like I will look at my wardrobe, or I'll look for it and go, I need some coral. So if I'm making a top anyway, I don't choose it based on always the style of the top. I'll go, right, have we got any coral in at the moment?
I love that. I love that you do that.
But I only figured it out when you made me. And my worksheet.
There you go. Did your worksheet. Cool.
I think I've arrived at the same conclusion that I've kind of now thought of pulling out a lot of things thinking I'm not excited by that. But the things I was really liking were like things that went with my neon pink trainers, things I could wear like my bright neon pink earrings with, and I was like, the more brighter the colour the better. So I feel like now I just want to buy fabrics and make things that are brighter, and also things that are not just for summer, because I think like the tendency is to like wear the bright colours in the summer, and then in the winter
that's when you need the most, isn't it? In the winter,
I don't go for the whole.
In the winter, I've just got a lot of thick black snuggly things because it's cold. So what I need is more trans-seasonal
coral snuggly or red,
or things that I can layer up. So
I hate it when you walk in. I mean, I don't buy ready to wear ever anymore, really. But when you walk into shops and it's like, oh, it's autumn, it's all colours. It's
black,
like,
grey, navy.
Why? This is the time we need colour.
Yeah, this is it exactly. I've really noticed that, like making that sweatshirt, the green sweatshirt with the lilac.
Yes.
Makes me so happy to wear that.
And people's reaction to you, it's like, I can sometimes be walking down the street and I'm very colourful, and some people kind of smile. Might be in that mood where you're like, what are you looking at? And then you go, oh, me.
Oh, that's so funny, yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, sorry.
Right, next question. I would love to know what steps you skip in sewing. I'm sort of a lazy sewist, and I often skip steps like stay stitching, but I feel like really talented sewists probably never do that. What corners do you feel like are okay to cut? I'm really interested to hear what you both have to say about this. I think this is going to be quite telling.
Well, I had a very, very good tutor teacher. So I don't skip any steps. No, and I don't. But I think it is more to do with the fact that I'm a bit of a rule follower. So even if I have the most straightforward pattern that I've made like 3 times, I will still cast an eye over it to kind of see what they, and I'll do things my own way, but I follow the rules. And I always do the things that I know will make the difference to my garment. I know what's important, I think. But my big thing that I always skip is, at the end when you have finished a garment, and I cut threads as I go, but all the overlocking bits on the inside that need to be kind of tidied up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just at that point where you want to try it on and photograph it and put it on Instagram because it doesn't exist if it's not on, blah, blah, blah. That's the point where I'll go, I'll just tidy those up later. And I often forget.
So you're wearing dresses and garments and things with like the Primark look on the inside with the overlocker chains.
Yeah, sometimes. But recently what I discovered was a garment that I had I probably worn it about 4 times before I realised that I hadn't actually overlocked the sleeve edges. So
when you set the seam in.
Yeah, because I was in such a hurry to finish it. It was probably for a show. We were doing a show or something, and I think I had to finish it, and it was like, yes, I've got that in, da-da-da. Yeah, it was only like after a few wears, I was like, I never overlocked that. And I then did. But yeah, those last little things.
Kind of rush to get it on the body.
Yeah.
I really think that this is very linked to the whole 4 tendencies thing that I'm obsessed with, you know?
Yes.
You're looking at me quizzically.
No, because you already told me what you thought I was, and I actually
I've
been thinking about it, yeah. I thought I was like...
Obliger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the 4
Rebel.
tendencies. It's not a personality thing. It's specifically about how you respond to expectation, both internal and external. And I'll put a link to the free quiz that you can do in the show notes because it's so interesting and it's so telling. And you're a rebel, are you, Julia?
I think it depends. I don't know. I think your mood can change and how you answer the questions can change.
Definitely.
So
but I think there are overall.
Do it, yeah. Like I did it. You know,
trends.
I can do it one day and be like a rebel, then another day maybe be more of an obliger. So I don't know that I'm necessarily set in a pattern.
Interesting.
Like I
see you as a questioner.
You see me as a questioner. Well, I think that's a fair point. I don't like to be told something and then accept it.
Yeah. You want to do the reset.
I can think of scenarios.
I'm very sorry about that, but I think it's a good thing. Like, you know.
No, I do too.
I think you should educate your children in this way. Like, maybe not necessarily to the point that I might do it, but like, you shouldn't just accept things. Like, question everything. You know, like be inquisitive. I think don't just say, "Oh, so and so said that to me." But like going back to the sewing thing. So, would you skip steps? I think I've made the mistake of skipping steps and then got stung by it. Say, for example, I've not pre-washed my fabric and then I've made something and then I've had to give it to my rather thin friend. And,
that's heartbreaking.
Or like breathe in quite a lot when I wear it on and then just give in and go, okay, this is too small, it does not fit. Even though like I made the most beautiful dresses and shrunk them and anyway. So I've done that. I've also like, as Kate said, she does like to skip stay stitching, but on a drapey fabric like a viscose, it's a bad idea. I want to like over.
So you don't skip them because you know what happens.
Because I know what
you have done in the past.
When I'm teaching my students and we're looking at the instructions on something, there will often be times where I'll be like, why have they done it like that? Like, why have you overcomplicated that step or done it in a particular way? So I will do things differently because I'll have a better method or I'll have an easier method.
It's critical thinking, isn't it? But but there are things
I don't know that there's things that I would...
I've skipped things because I've just forgotten them. I don't skip things because it's on purpose. I've got a pair of cord trousers, and see if you can identify them when I'm wearing them, that have no interfacing in the waistband.
Okay. What are we looking at? Is it the green ones?
Yeah. Floppy. Always wear a top over the top. But because I didn't do, where I interface everything beforehand, and I did things in a different order, and I was in such a rush that I didn't have... I keep thinking, one of these days I'll unpick it, and I haven't.
You're never going to do that.
Because they still function, but I don't skip stuff. I forget stuff.
So you do
I'm a middle-aged woman who's got a menopausal brain. No, I don't. Yeah.
I mean, I think on easy to handle fabric, if it says stay stitch and I know it's like something really solid, then I would skip it. But there is like you
skip it based on experience of knowing that it's not needed, not because you just can't be bothered.
Yeah. Like I'll often change the order of construction to what I think makes sense. So I might not stay stitch a neckline if I know that I'm going to finish it next. Rather than I don't like to leave the neckline like raw and then fanny around with the sleeves You know, I'd rather get the neckline sorted because I think that that's quite a vulnerable.
But it's easier to do when it's flat. So if you like
absolutely
sew the shoulders, do it while it's flat.
Before you put sleeves in, before you do side seams and things like that. Exactly. So, yeah, I don't like to baste.
If the instruction says, and Bird do this a lot, it says baste followed by the word stitch, and then I just think, well, why? Just pin it and sew it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No. Oh gosh, maybe I am.
You? Yeah.
I also don't like the word based.
No, because it was always tack.
Well, it is. It's an American term, isn't it?
When I was growing up.
But it's the British term is tack.
Yeah.
And the American term is based.
Tack's gone out the window.
Based is, I think, because we've become very Americanized.
Tack has like memories of teenage sewing with dicks.
I mean,
not that it isn't. No, but it just might. That's because I haven't heard it in years. Because I've heard based.
But I just associate that with, like, you know, turkeys, chickens. So no, I just feel we need to hold on to the British terminology of things.
Or just not do it at all.
Like haberdashery.
British stroke Irish. Yes, totally.
Rather than
notions.
I thought notions was like equipment, and haberdashery was like buttons and zips.
But on your pattern, it will say notions and it will have like zips, buttons, all that stuff. And I quite like the word haberdashery.
I love the word haberdashery. Yeah. I love a haberdashery.
Yeah. Other steps that one might skip. I think I've started adding in steps.
I'm just thinking of all the steps that I don't. You know when you're listening to people like where people talk about like, oh, I don't press, and I go, no.
It's the only time I ever do any ironing.
Yes, really? I don't like ironing.
I just think it makes such a difference.
Pressing, I overpress. I have my ironing board behind me, and I turn and I press. It's like I press constantly.
It makes such a difference the overall look.
I imagine it does. I wouldn't know because I just don't not press.
Wouldn't know. It's always perfectly pressed.
I wouldn't say it's perfectly pressed. I don't mean I do a good job of it, but
yeah, cool. Okay, thank you for that. Right, Angela says, I'd love to hear what you just can't be bothered to sew and why. Not things you cannot make, but the things you do not make. As a follow-up, I'm curious if those end up being the things you buy or thrift instead, like undergarments or sweaters and jumpers. Or if you simply avoid wearing them altogether, like jeans, in my world anyway.
I mean, like homewear.
That's a great question.
Oh, no.
Curtains definitely can't be bothered.
Years ago when I started sewing, I went into the curtain making class and made one miniature curtain. And that's the only curtain I've ever made.
I used to make curtains for people for a while.
Oh, God.
Or altar curtains. And at the time, I had the tiniest, like, one-bed flat. I was, like, trying to cut everything out on the floor.
Oh, no.
And it was just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And I was just, like, to try and get, it sounds ridiculous, but to try and get something rectangular. Because it has to be, like, perfectly rectangular.
Yeah.
It was just ridiculous. So
it's like wrestling a whale as well.
I just think
that's why you did a mini curtain in the sewing school I was in, because it was the only way they could fit it in.
Exactly. So I would not do that. I also think that there's plenty of shops that sell really good lingerie, and I don't need to. I've made bras, I've made pants, but I mean, it's not like throwaway fashion, is it? It's like I'm going to buy a bra and I'm going to wear it until it falls apart, and then I will repair it and I will continue to wear it. I have to say, like with my pants, if they start to fall apart, I might be less asked to repair them. I will throw those away.
Yeah, but you're a knitter as well, aren't you?
I am a knitter, yeah.
So you kind of have all bases covered, don't you? So aside from undies...
So undies, other things that I can't be bothered to make. I don't know that there is anything like garment-wise. I think those are the only real things.
You don't knit socks either, though. As a knitter, I hate the idea of knitting a sock and then another one.
I have knitted socks, but I've knitted them as like slipper socks.
I don't want to wear them in my shoes. I've
knitted slipper socks, but I can't imagine wearing them and getting my shoe on with the knitted sock. You know, like my feet are quite big anyway. My shoe just about fits. I'm not going to get a sock.
You know, you can get bigger shoes if you need to.
No, I can't. That's
wasteful. Though, having to buy a whole new load of shoes just because your socks are.
Also, I'm not a knitted.
No.
Not a knitted sock
like to
kind
be
of
a
person.
knitted sock person.
I like knitting socks, but they're more like kind of house socks.
I went down that rabbit hole. Do you remember? I think it was during lockdown of trying to sew some socks. That was not a success. I had all this ideas of I've got all this knitwear, like secondhand knitwear, and it's the wrong kind of stuff.
Pick your battles, I think. Pick your battles. I think there's
I still buy bras, but that's not. I feel like I'm going to at one point really figure it out.
But you've made bras. You have made bras.
I've made 2, and neither of them have really been a success.
Yeah, I've made 3, and they're
one.
not quite right.
Yeah.
There was one thing that I felt was missing in like my sort of sewing knowledge world. It's like I've not made a bra, so I did sign up and did a bra making workshop. Well, I had the notion to like put the workshop on at the centre that I was working at, so I could do the workshop without having to pay under the guise of observation. So I saved a lot of money, did a bra making workshop, and then made a bra that didn't fit, and then made another bra that didn't fit, and then made a third bra.
You're selling it.
That didn't fit.
This is
I
the
think
thing.
you can crack it though. But I think if you
I will crack it. I will crack it. They're not going to be like underwire things. I think they're going to be more like bralettes or
I think
stretchy
bralettes
bras
would be
or something.
easier.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Angela. Okay, next question. Oh, I love this one. Okay, this is from Elaine. How big a fabric stash is too big, in your opinion? Julia?
I think if you can't accommodate it in the space that you have, then it's too big. Because basically that's the point that I'm at. It's like,
okay,
I have a lot of space, but there is a limit. Like I don't have like a basement room that I can just keep putting stuff in, or an amazing big attic space.
If you would you keep buying fabric?
I don't know. I kind of acquire it from people as well. So
yeah,
it's not great. It's not an ideal solution, but that's how I view it. So at the moment, I think okay.
So it's literally a storage limitation.
It's a storage limitation for me. I have too much fabric. I do have to. I know I do, but I just feel I've accommodated it in my space. Therefore, it's okay, and I've had to accept that.
Okay. Okay.
So you saw it from a physical perspective. I very much saw it from an emotional, psychological perspective. That is like I get overwhelmed. It's if I look at what's actually taken up with fabric, very little of it. There's boxes of the 1/2 metre left over that I can't get rid of, and there's the tiny scraps that I've got in a bag for the quilt that I'll make when I'm retired, and the other stuff that I pick up in charity shops constantly, like a cross stitch or all of the other craft stuff. But in terms of fabric, that is a 3 metre piece, I don't have a lot, and I've got a cupboard that has to fit into, and I can see it through the glass, and that looks at me, and so that can get too big.
Because you don't really have a sewing room, do you? It's part
That's
of
our
your
bedroom,
yeah.
But there's loads of space. We've got boxes on top of fabric and all. There's a lot of stuff there. But that is less of a space issue and more of I get overwhelmed because the project that fabric is meant for goes round and round and round in my head.
Yeah.
And I feel this urge that I have to make it once it's in my head. So that's why I don't have a huge amount of fabric. But what does grow in stash is the bits that I would like to be better at using. And I've actually got better at going, that metre that's left over, that 1/2 metre that's left over, I'm going to make a top out of that. And I'm trying to work through those as well in between.
Yeah.
But they also are part of that. And I think that's what gets very big for me.
Yeah.
The bits that I never throw away. I don't throw any of it away. Anyone wants some bits?
No. I have like organised my bits in colour, and I've got boxes of small bits of fabric by colour, only because when I wrote the books it was easier to do it that way, because the page had to be all like everything was blue on one page, everything was pink on another page, so I just sort of put together the fabrics in that way, and then I go, okay, what pinks do I have for these samples, for these techniques?
Do you look in those boxes? Because I find like they go into a box.
Well, that's the thing.
And then about a year later,
I kind of go in and go, that fabric that I got 5 years ago is still in there.
Why did I keep that?
Yeah, I have I've offloaded a lot of stuff to students over the years. So things that I've acquired because like relatives have died or other people's relatives have died, and they've given me their haberdashery, their fabric stash, their wool, like everything. And I've just kind of filtered out some things that I've thought I'm not going to use that, or I'll take that to the fabric swap, or because sometimes you buy fabric, you've got an idea and then you leave it so long that you forgot what the idea was you had when you bought the fabric.
Well, that's why that's a matter of days for me.
That's why you need Stash Hub app.
I haven't got time for those things. So I was like, right, I'm going to put them in. I put a folder, put the pattern with the fabric in a folder, and then I had a amount of folders which went in a bag, and now I just have bags of
bags and bags, yeah.
So I've got to stop doing that and kind of. But then the seasons change.
Yeah.
So I think, I've got this amazing deal of like this quilted puffer fabric. It's going to be a really amazing coat. And then all of a sudden the sun came out and it's completely the wrong time of year. So that's been parked.
Yeah, the puffer fabrics,
the other ideas,
the super thick sweatshirting and the fleece stuff, that's just not a good idea because it takes up way
so
too much.
They
didn't fit in the boxes, so they were just a pile in the bedroom. Became a fixture.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are not good.
I feel, for me, I think I'm probably more on the spectrum of Naomi in that it's both. It's a physical space thing, and there is an emotional weight to having it.
Yeah.
And I think for me that's more linked to the resources that have gone into producing the fabric. I really abhor those kind of memes, like the "she who dies with the most fabric wins." Yeah. I find that it's just encouraging overconsumption, and overconsumption of anything, be that fast fashion or fabric or anything, isn't good. I mean, for me, I would like to get to a point where, scraps aside, main bits of fabric, I have no more than I could use in, say, a year. You know?
That would be a nice goal to have.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm that far off. But I hope to get there by the end of this last thing. Okay, well, it's I think what we've discovered is that it's very personal and there isn't a right or wrong.
Yeah. Very. I think it's very personal to people.
I'm not in time. I do consciously think, okay, I don't need that, or I think sometimes you see a fabric and if you don't buy it there and then you won't see it again. So sometimes
there is always more fabric.
There is always more fabric, but there's definitely certain ones that you think, I've got to get that.
Yeah,
that is going to go away and I'll never
so
see.
hard.
Yeah, and I think there's ones that I think about and I'll just buy it. Okay, I'll just buy it. But I try to only buy if I've got a project in mind and I know and I actually need that item as well. It's not like
I only buy those fabrics that are really, really special that I don't know exactly what yet. But usually by the time I bought it, I do. But I think we're in a position where, because where we work, we can wait. We don't have to. We're not in shops where we're going in and going, I need to buy it, I never buy it like that now because I work somewhere where I can see it. I know it's there before anybody else does, and I have time to think about it.
And you can keep an eye on how quick it's going.
Yeah, and then it's like, and if anybody sees that go below something else, can you just let me know? So I do think about it a lot more. I don't buy impulsively. I never see a fabric in a day and buy it the same day, ever.
So a lady's also asking, do you twirl, aka muslin, or not bother? They're saying, I'm wanting to make a more fitted skirt and might need to give some precious sewing time to a twirl and zip skill build.
I'm kind of like...
I'm team twirl.
I am team twirl because I try and instill this in my students as well. And I know Naomi's like, she always makes me twirl and I don't want to. And a lot of people just want to rush straight in. It depends on the pattern.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely depends on the pattern. If you're making something fitted and you've got expensive fabric, definitely twirl. Even if
I make
it's
a lot of things that
twirl.
aren't fitted, so I've gotten the habit of not having to. But when I do something fitted, absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely. And trousers, fitted trousers. I mean, if they're wide, probably would get away with. But I will tissue fit as well. So I will often tissue fit a bodice if it's a tissue pattern, and I'll fit it that way. But if it's a fitted bodice, I absolutely would use. But I will only twirl the parts that I need to. And I probably skimp on I'm not going to put the sleeve in, or that'll do fine. I'll do less than I need to, but definitely a bodice of anything fitted I would twirl.
I think at the moment I'm making such a limited range of garments. Like I'm making dungarees, I'm making blouses, and I think that I've got enough patterns now that I know that work, that I can kind of, if I am using a new pattern, I've got something to reference it with, so I can lay another pattern that's very similar on it and check. I'm not making a lot of fitted things, and I'm not making a wide variety of things because my life is fairly casual. So I'm not toiling a lot, but I'm very much team twirl in essence.
Yeah.
In theory.
And I have got things recently where, because I've been in such a rush, I haven't, and it shows. Thinking of a dress, cut it out with COVID, locked at home, COVID brain, went for the slightly larger bust, but then, the whole top of, just didn't fit my body. And I need to now unpick the whole thing. It is really worth it.
What about a wearable twirl? Would you do a wearable twirl?
I don't do a wearable, no, because it's like, I'm making something or I'm not. I don't like the idea of testing something in a decent fabric that may or may not work. If I'm testing it, I'm testing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Right, and it's also asked, which I really like this one, what is an acceptable amount of new garments to make for yourself each year and still be sustainable? Julia's like, I don't care.
Less than what I make. Well, sustainable.
The only way of being sustainable is like, make
to wear what you've got.
Wear what you've got, repair what you've got, don't make anything new.
Which I don't claim to be.
New. Don't buy any new fabric, don't sew.
Yeah, there's no such thing as sustainable, only more sustainable. Okay, well I guess it's another personal thing, like how do you feel? Like, is that a factor for you?
Yes, but it's not, I'm not there. I mean, I feel guilty a lot, I think, with some of the things I make, because I make things sometimes because it fills an emotional need, and I make something sometimes because we're doing a show and I've been gifted the fabric, and
you're very good at making things that you actually do wear.
Yeah, but then it becomes that personal thing of like, how many times should you be wearing something? Should you have, I've got jeans I wear once a week. They go in the wash and then they're worn again. I've got plateau joggers that are like my holy grail of clothing. I think of brands me made me, and they're on again. But the dresses, I've got quite a lot of them. Do they get enough wear to merit having as many as they do? So I would say no.
This is one of the reasons why I don't really like making things out of prints, because I feel like a print, you wear it and then you're not going to wear it too many times in the same week, I don't think. I think you feel like, I've worn that. Whereas I think you can get away with plainer garments more frequently without you thinking.
I wear prints because a lot of what I make are jumpsuits and dresses, and I put plain polo necks underneath in winter. But I think that the prints isn't the thing for me. It is more that I probably have too many of them.
Right.
It's the quantity. I do have a lot of them, and I know that then there are the gaps where, like the plateau joggers, I've got 2 pairs. I probably would wear 4 of them.
Yeah.
They're the things I need to wear.
Yeah. So I don't think I get there to the point where I feel like I've made so much stuff for myself, because I'm making a lot of stuff for my kids as well, and they grow, like they need suddenly a load of pants, or the season changes and all their summer pajamas from last year don't fit anymore, so there's a lot of making for other people. So I'm not actually making that much for myself. So I mean, obviously there's been times where I have, but there's definitely some things that I should make more of. Like, I only have the one pair of shoddy leggings that I wear when I get home. I should make more of those.
Yeah, I need to make more leggings. That was one thing, like, during Me Made May, like, I wear a lot of dresses that are kind of just above the knee that I just throw on with a pair of leggings, and I wear leggings all the time.
Yeah.
And I buy them from a couple of shops where I know that, they're pretty cheap, but I wear them and wear them and wear them. And when I get holes in them, I repair the holes, and then I'll wear them, and then I'll sew them up again. And then eventually, when they're trashed, I'll cut the legs off, and they'll become like kind of chub rub shorts that I can wear under like short dresses, or I wear them to bed, or whatever. So they kind of get a lot of use. But I just think maybe I should just make some that actually fit me better, because they're never quite the right size.
Yeah, and when I did, I mean, for me, I wear leggings around the house too. I've got maternity leggings that I still wear.
My one pair were maternity leggings. Frankie's now 6. No, I tightened the leggings.
Okay,
the elastic up again.
I had the ones that I had from Brody's 8. So I would. But I had to make the plateau joggers for work, but then I ended up making a pair and for myself. But I made a pair in some sweatshirting that doesn't shrink, that doesn't, if you're putting the money into buying the quality fabric which none of these things you buy from shops are made of, that actually last.
Yeah.
Because normally what happens to me is if I put on a pair of jogging bottoms that have shrunk and then they're really tight around my tummy, which is,
that's completely not the point of jogging bottoms.
And then, but this is what happens with things that you buy. They're not where these are like. Every time I put them on, I have that feeling of like, I love these so much. That's what I need to make. Is another pair. Not 10 of them, but another couple of pairs so that when they're in the wash, I've got another pair.
Yeah,
and I can feel the joy from. The other thing that I was a Marlowe cardigan, a sweatshirted cardigan. Is bringing me so much joy. So sometimes it's those basics.
Yeah.
You have to go, that's what I need
Isn't
to make.
it interesting that Elaine's asked a question about how much you can make and to be sustainable? And we've answered what we need. We've just given a list of things we should make.
I think it's being
more mindful.
I don't know that I feel guilty necessarily about my consumption of fabrics and how many clothes I'm making, because I kind of think surely the comparison would be, well, are you shopping online and going to ASOS or Primark, or are you going in there and bringing out absolutely bucket loads of?
I think that's a really good point.
And then going home and then going, it doesn't fit, and then taking it to the charity shop.
Are you accepting the Shein voucher that you're offered constantly through Instagram?
And also, do you resist buying stuff online from cheap places, or do you buy that kind of stuff which just perpetuates the kind of fast fashion thing?
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you make, because there are known averages that people, I think, isn't it something like people are buying an average of 70 garments a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're not making 70 garments a year.
Oh my gosh.
Are we?
No way.
So there's some people obviously that are buying a lot less, but there must be people that are buying a lot more.
I mean,
and that excludes underwear as well, I
could
believe.
make less clothing, but I feel like it kind of fulfills a number of things. It fulfills the fact that I want a garment to wear out to an event I'm going to, or I need some more staples to wear to work, or I'm cold, I need another jumper or whatever. But it also fulfills a mental kind of satisfaction, doesn't it? It's this is making me feel good. I love creating. I want to be making something. So it's not how sustainable am I being? I'm being conscious about the type of fabric I'm buying, how much I'm buying, what I'm making. It's about the whole process as well, isn't it? It's about the joy that you get from making it, and then the joy you get from wearing it.
And I think the point as well about the fabric. So I've found myself having this conversation, especially when we're doing open shows, when I'm talking to people about fabric to buy and talking about jerseys and things particularly. And one of the big discoveries for me was when I first made basics, like polo necks, t-shirts, out of really good quality jersey. And it isn't easy for everybody to spend that money on fabric. I'm in a position where it's cheaper for me, and I'm lucky. But I have polo neck tops, turtleneck tops, whatever, that in the winter I wear in rotation. At least once a week these tops are worn, and they haven't shrunk, they haven't bubbled, and that will last.
Faded.
And and if it gets under the arm, goes a bit, I overlock it, and it's fine. And so I find myself kind of having this little rant to people about not just the investment in terms of that, this top is going to last you, but this one top, people will have bought 10, 20 of that top from Primark.
Because the fabric's not as good quality.
But it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
It's not meant to last. So they'll buy, and I'm trying to push my sister into, it's you need to make these things that last longer. Because the basics that I have that I've made myself look pretty much exactly the same they did that I made them.
Yeah.
The day they made them. So on that score, I think it is really, that is more sustainable.
Yeah.
It's very tempting though, isn't it, to make pretty things that look really nice, that are kind of just fill you with joy, and you put them on. It's but then it's okay, well, I can't wear that big floaty dress today because it's blowing a gale, which it always does around here. It's too windy, and if I go out, it's going to be up around my ears, and everyone's going to see my pants.
And I still make the dresses because I do wear them, and they do go around my ears, and I always find it hilarious. But I've made them
accepted
less.
That all the neighbours have seen your pants.
There is a few dresses
okay.
that I've gone, right, well, I know that's too much for me, and I know that's too dressy, and I don't have evening events, so I have adapted that bit, I think. But I will always wear the big dresses because I think people need to see my pants.
All right. Okay, so Jill has asked us, this is so funny, have you ever cancelled plans or made up an excuse, basically lied, so that you could stay home and sew? And if so, what excuse did you use?
Who listens to this podcast?
I was just wondering the same thing.
Yes.
Have you?
Oh.
Cancel plans. No, not cancel plans.
But made stuff up so you could stay at home. I often say I've got to work, and when I say work, I mean
work on that expanding my wardrobe.
So because I don't teach in school anymore, and I work for a fabric company and I sew for a fabric company. Sometimes I'm sewing there, and sometimes I'm sewing for myself. But it can be it's quite fluid work.
So that's exactly it. I just say I've got lots of work to do. I have made excuses to leave somewhere early, and said I've got lots of work to do.
Have you?
Yeah, I mean the situation has become a little bit difficult anyway, so it was a good kind of get out clause, like with the family thing. So it was like, I've got lots of work to do. We need to go.
I love it.
And
I think I've
convinced
myself that. I mean, it's not even that I'm lying, because in my head it's like, oh yeah, this is important. It's work. I've got to go. Put the hem on that so I can wear it. Yeah, work.
I mean, it's very important though, isn't it?
I haven't, but I do get very relieved sometimes when somebody else cancels and you're like, yes!
Yes. I mean, that's just generally anyway, because I'm such an introvert. It's like, there's very few social things, this excluded, where I'm like, yeah, oh good, don't have to do that now.
Right, cool. Let's power through, we can do this. Okay, Jill also asks, what reasons or excuses do you use when someone says, could you just shorten my curtains or put a new zip in my jeans or take out my mother's skirt? At one time, Jill was going to call her house Isbida. I'm acronym for I sew but I don't do alterations, which is amazing.
Interesting. I have quite a lot of people that ask me to do alterations, and I do alterations for some people, but I kind of just have to draw the line. But I had a friend the other day who said, I've bought this top, and could you alter it for me? And maybe I could just buy you a drink to say thanks.
Whoa!
So I just messaged her back and was like, I'm just going to lay it on the line. I can alter your top for you, but I will charge you for however long it takes me. So it's probably going to be about £20 to fix. And left it there.
Nice.
Because I just thought, no, you can't just buy a drink for me, because what do you spend your life doing that I'm going to just say to you, oh, could you just design a website for me and I'll buy you a drink? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because it's really not.
Sometimes it's that approach of like, oh, you love doing this, don't you? So I'll do you a favour and give you more.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you love sewing, wouldn't you love to sew my thing? It's like, you're not doing me a favour.
Yeah.
First of all,
we're all sitting around waiting.
For myself.
Yeah.
I don't sew for anybody else with pleasure. I sew for me with pleasure. Secondly, you're not doing me a favour, but it is. I think there's also that thing where people kind of blur the lines of what you enjoy sewing. So when you sew garments and you like to be creative with that, and you sometimes will even draft your own things, and then somebody, which has happened to me, who you don't really speak to that much, but your kids hang out, messages you and says, oh, could you take my daughter's curtains off? Like, no.
You can't find a reason to use your own sewing machine, and you're just waiting for someone to give you a reason to use your sewing machine.
I don't know, it's that thing of like, you do that thing, don't you? So you just be happy to do that. No, take the time to understand that I don't do upholstery. I don't make her.
It's a really weird thing I find with people that sew, that other people think, oh, you can sew, you can take my trousers up, or you can fix my trousers.
But not only that, but you would love to do it.
But you just think, no, why would I do that? Like, I would never say to my friend, and the equivalent would be like, oh, you're a carpenter, could you come round and build me some cupboards, and then I'll take you to the pub for a drink?
Yeah. When it is something that is mostly women, the majority of people who sew, or the larger number are women, it is that this is something that you're going to do for free, because it's just this frivolous thing that you do.
Yeah.
And would you, in a more male-dominated industry, would you say the same thing?
No, of course you wouldn't.
Sure. I don't enjoy doing alterations for people, because I'm worried that it won't, it won't be what they want it to be. If you say, I want a garment made in this size, that's okay. But when I start, I don't feel confident with that. So when I say no, please just accept that. No, I don't want to do that.
I think some people find it hard to say no. They don't know. I think, if your friend's saying, oh, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And I have in the past, I've done loads of things for free, or I've done loads of things on the cheap. And then afterwards just thought, oh, like I've made your entire family outfits and you've cooked me dinner. That wasn't a good swap, and then I kind of get guilted into things.
Yeah.
And also you learn as well, like I've done alterations for people and I've worked with some terrible fabrics, and then you just say, okay, I will never alter anything that's chiffon. Or I would just say no to jobs. And I don't want to put a new zip in your jeans.
Oh yeah, even so I'll alter things for people who are close to me. My sister said, could you put a zip in my jeans? I was like, sorry. No, I love you, but no.
I remember when I was in my early to mid 20s, and I'd been to university and I'd done fashion design, and I was really struggling to get into the clothing industry. I mean, I was always doing bits and bobs on the side, like making bags and stuff, but I wanted to get into quote unquote fashion, because that's kind of what the goal of the course was. And I ended up working in casinos for a couple of years, and I would do a lot of alterations for people, partly because I didn't really understand my worth, and you want to please people, but also it felt like I was working somewhere that didn't feel like me, but I almost felt like it was like some validation that I have this other life, that I have this other skill, and that I was kind of being and I did it for money. Do you know what I mean? It kind of gave me almost like a connection, although I don't want to go into professional alteration. It felt like it was a connection.
An identity, yeah.
Some of it was fine, and it was a nice way to connect with some people. Like, for example, a lot of the security guards at the first casino I worked at were quite shorter and but really they did a lot of weights. They were quite stocky, and they all needed their jeans shortening. So they used to literally bring me their jeans with a safety pin at the right level, because they'd got their partner or whatever to safety pin it, and then give me a fiver, and it was fun. And I had the top stitching thread already, and I would just do that, and it was kind of then a nice small little connection, and they valued it. They saw it was a skill that I had. But I've just done a couple of wedding alterations, not the bridal party, but a couple of wedding guest things for my neighbours, because they feed my cat. So, and they really appreciate it. I'm only ever going to do it for people that genuinely appreciate it, and there's some sort of swap.
I think mostly it's people's lack of understanding what is involved, and it's like, oh, you can just do that, and then they don't
take you 10 minutes, and you're like, no, it's going to take 2 hours.
Yeah, how do you know it's going to take 10 minutes?
Most of the alterations I've done are ones where someone has got something and I'll go, I'll do that for you. Because one, they haven't expected me to do it. Two, I can recognise that it's something that I can do and it's quite straightforward. And it's nice to offer rather than someone to take you completely for granted and go, oh, you can just do that, can't you?
It makes you angry, doesn't it? Sometimes it just makes you angry. But just talking about alterations, I did, I have kind of done alterations over the years for money, in between jobs. And I've just, some of the most disgusting things that I've done. I've had a lot of people who want their jeans mending, and most of it is men's crotches.
Yeah,
so
I haven't washed them.
I've sewn many a man's crotch on his jeans, and I had one client he had about 4 or 5 pairs of jeans, and they smelt really bad. He had a basement flat and he had a dog, and it was all kind of like that kind of damp basement smell with dog. And in the end, I just said to him, I'm really sorry, I poured my tea in the bag by accident, I spilt tea and it went in your bag, and I had to wash them, because I just had to kind of lie that I couldn't touch them until I'd been through the wash, because they were so horrible. So I've sewn up.
Could you not just flat out say, look, everything's been laundered before you pass it?
Well, I should have done, and in hindsight, I would, after that event, say that. But at the time, that was my kind of, I'm just going to wash them all and go through with this. But from that point onwards, would be like, you wash them before you give them to me. The other thing I've done is a lot of older people's trousers where they want them shortening because they've started to shrink. And when you unpick, there's loads of dead skin in the hem, and it's really gross. So you unpick it because you. I didn't know that was what you were going to say. Yeah,
I was like, oh, fluff. No,
it must be dead skin.
Oh no.
We should move on.
Okay. Thank you, Jill.
Of course.
Thank you, Jill. Well, thank you everybody so much for your questions. It was really fun.
It's been a very positive experience.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zoe, for having me on the podcast again.
Yeah,
Have there
thank you.
been any surprises? Have we learned anything about each other?
I don't think there's anything I didn't know.
It was
I didn't
interesting
know you worked in a casino. I'm like, I've got questions.
3 casinos.
Were you a croupier? Were
Yeah.
you like...
I was a dealer, I was a croupier.
She was a dealer and a croupier. Wow.
Thank you so much. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, let's do it again.
For another year.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!